Well, a very good morning to you all and welcome to Views, People and News, this 14th day of December 2024. My name is Judith Atim. Pleasure to have you. It is 4 minutes past 9 o'clock. And today on the show, we are discussing the strategy to fix Uganda's economy in the year 2025, which is just weeks away, amidst declining foreign aid. And my guest will be joining me shortly. He's Mr. Ggoobi, who is the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, as well as the Secretary to the Treasury. Of course, when we are talking about strategies to fix the economy, what comes to mind is a lot. The status of employment or unemployment for a lot of people, the question of income inequality. We know very well that our universities are churning out thousands of graduates every year. But the question is, where can they be absorbed? Where will they go? We also know the push is for most Ugandans to go into self-employment. But what's the environment like for people who go into self-employment? If you're starting up a business, how easy is it for you to start? How easy is it for you to access capital? What's the cost of borrowing? What's the cost of capital? The taxes that you have to pay? How many people actually run successful or viable businesses for years? We know for a fact that we have one of the highest business closure rates. A lot of businesses can't see their first birthdays. Many struggle to actually make it to the third, fourth, or even the fifth year. These are all conversations that we would like to have. And also a little later in the show, we will open the phone lines just to get your views and your experiences. What has it been like for you this year, economically, financially, in terms of access to money, in terms of doing business? Has it been easy? What challenges have you had? We would like to hear your thoughts later. And of course, we would give you the opportunity to address your questions or concerns to the PSST. We shall look also broadly about the state of the economy so far this year. What are the hits and what are the misses? What lessons have we picked as a country, or has the government picked for that matter this year? How can we ensure that we enter 2025 in a stronger position financially? Putting at the back of your mind that 2025 is a politically charged year as we count down to the 2026 general elections. It's going to be primarily a year of campaigns, and that means also a lot of political spending, and that definitely has implications on our finances. It has implications on us as citizens. It has implications when it comes to inflation and so on. Cost of living could go high. These are all conversations or questions that we would like to have addressed. Also, issues like I was saying earlier, income inequality, service delivery. What does the heavy campaign spending mean to citizens in terms of access to education, in terms of access to healthcare? What is the cost of accessing healthcare? Yes, there is free education, universal education at primary, at secondary level. But in terms of quality, do we have schools with the right infrastructure in terms of, say, the physical structures that enable learners to actually enjoy and grow through their learning, facilities that enable the school teachers or administrators to actually perform at optimum. When it comes to accessing healthcare, how easy is it for you to access healthcare? What costs do you have to incur? We shall be talking about this and so much more during the next 2 hours. And I'm just going to give my guest a few seconds to catch his breath before I say good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Judy.
Good to have you. You're smiling. You're charged. Is that coffee or tea that you're taking? Are you taking tea?
What do you think? Coffee?
No, it's tea. I'm seeing a tea bag sticking out. Good to have you, Mr. Ggoobi.
Always a pleasure to be on KFM.
I know how busy you are. I last hosted you so many months ago But good to have you, especially now as we close the year. I think we had a conversation when we were starting the year. Now we are closing, so we want to see. And at that time, you were very optimistic about the state of the economy, how we are doing so well, and so many. I don't know if that optimism is still there, but we're going to hear that from you in the next 2 hours. How has been your week so far?
The week is good, but very busy. We are preparing the budget for next year. And that comes with a lot of activities. Trying to coordinate the entire government to put together a budget that would bring the economy that you want. Yeah. Okay.
So when we talk about the economy that we want, what does that look like?
Thank you. The number one, good morning to our listeners. It's been a while, and I'm always glad to speak to Ugandans about the economy. The economy of Uganda has come a long way, Judith. And over the years, almost since independence, we've been trying to find the best fit to get this economy to work for every Ugandan. And it's been transforming. It's been changing in the structure, in the outlook. If you consider, for example, the composition of the economy in terms of the activities and the products we produce and export, there have been changes. Recently, there is a study which was done by some wise people who have created a growth lab at the Harvard University in the US. And they found that in the past 15 years, just these 15 years, Ugandan economy has added 24 new products on our export basket. We've been able not only now to rely on our traditional commodities to earn foreign exchange. For example, coffee. In the 1995 to be specific, coffee contributed 62% of our export earnings. 2022, coffee contributed 14% of our export earnings. And yet, during that time, coffee has multiplied almost 4 times the earnings, which shows you that the economy is expanding but also transforming, changing in structure. Whereas coffee is bringing in more money today, by October this year, we had got $1.4 billion from coffee. In the past 12 months, 1.4 billion, we have never earned it from coffee in the history of Uganda. We crossed the $1 billion earnings around July, which shows you that, of course, Ugandans have produced more coffee, but also the value at the global market has gone up in terms of the prices. But despite the increased earnings, coffee is now contributing 14% of the export earnings. The question should be, what are those other products which have come online? These researchers find that apart from other commodities like gold and, of course, the usual ones which we produce, tea, maize, cotton, and so on and so forth, which we are used to. Now Uganda, in the past 15 years, has brought on board manufactured products as exports. And these are in the area of electronics, in the area of IT, in the area of agricultural inputs, in the area of chemicals for production of other goods. So we have attracted investors who have come and started producing quite complex products which are not known for Uganda and for economies of our income level, which shows you, therefore, that we're on the right track. We need to deepen our policy of investment attraction, export promotion, but above all, by ensuring that the outputs, the outcomes of these are going to the majority of Ugandans. It should be broad-based economic transformation agenda. That's why now we have decided as government to deliberately pursue what we call the ATMs, the agro-industrialization, tourism, mineral-based industrialization and manufacturing, including oil and gas, but also science, technology, and innovation.
Okay.
Those are the ATMs. You know, ATM, we know it as a machine which gives you money.
Dispenses cash, yes.
But it can only dispense money which you put there. So we have to invest in the right places for us to get money out of. And that's what we are trying to do. So that's the economy we want to work on.
That's very interesting. So you've basically given us a snapshot of what we have done and what the projections are, where we're heading, which seems optimistic, really. And I have to commend you for being the optimist that you are always. However, as a citizen, you know, most times people want, when people hear what government is saying and all the statistics that are thrown around, we're doing so well, this is how much we have made, this is how much we've attracted investments into the country. But people want to be able to feel like this growth and progress and the wealth that you're talking about actually impacts their lives directly, because you can't say the economy is doing so well when a lot of ordinary citizens out there are probably going to bed hungry. I know a lot of people who probably the last 2 days or so went to bed with basically not even affording the bare minimum. How then can the economy make sense to such a person? On one hand, the figures are showing it's really growing, but on the other hand, a lot of Ugandans do not relate to this growth. They don't feel it.
Of course, you know, growth is macro. We are talking of macro numbers and we're taking averages. But of course, there will be also a few voices that will be very happy with those numbers, and there will also be a few voices which are not happy with the numbers across the world. That's what happens. And our job, that's why I told you, is to make this economy more broad-based, such that it's working for majority of the people. And we are putting in place a number of strategies to do this. But fundamentally, I want to make it clear, fundamentally, the macro numbers must work for the micro numbers to make sense. Okay? You will not have the economy working for the people if it is not growing. Never. You will not have the economy, people feeding it, if inflation is rising. Never. You will not have the economy working for the people if the value of their currency is deteriorating. You will not have the economy working if they are not exporting to earn money from elsewhere. I want us to agree. All Ugandans should start thinking like economists. We must have the macros, which are the fundamentals, work. Now, after that, your question becomes very critical. That, well, the macro numbers are now improving. I'm not saying they are fantastic. We are not satisfied, actually.
It's a work in progress.
We have just recovered, as you know, Judith. We've been we've been here. We are not visitors. We know where we are coming from. A few years ago, a couple of years ago, these numbers were different. We were talking of growth of 3%. Now we are talking of 6.1%. You are talking of inflation. You remember one time you hosted me here, and the question was on inflation. You people, what are you doing? the price of everything was going up. Now, we are talking of other things. We are talking of feeding the economy. To feed the economy, definitely, is to translate those macro by being deliberate in getting various key sectors which employ more Ugandans to create more value, to create more wealth, so that they can be able to share on a bigger pie. And that's why we are targeting agro-industrialization, because most Ugandans are there. You know, I know that most of the people who talk a lot, who make, who form, the bigger chunk of this opinion, are the elite, the urban people who have access to a phone, to a radio, like here to call and say this economy, who go to a conference and elaborate things. But there are also those Ugandans in the villages who don't have that opportunity. And we started with them because they are the base. They are the majority. Most of the households are outside the money economy. And we have been fighting to ensure that they get there. So we put in place the parish development model. And that model is intended to get every Ugandan who's out of the money economy to start doing something small, And why the parish development model and why giving them money? The first fundamental binding constraint for Uganda is capital. Many younger people and adults have ideas on how they can make their lives better, but they don't have access to capital. Number two, we got that infrastructure. Even if you give them the money, if they don't have the things which electricity, the roads, the markets and so on, they will not be able to turn around. And we are looking at it as, a holistic solution. And we feel that we are going to put a lot of numbers into feeding the economy once agro-industrialization deepens. Then we have now the younger people in cities like Kampala and others who are listening to me now, majority of them. They speak English, they went to school, their parents paid money, and they did fantastically well at school, some of them. They have even first-class degrees, first-class diplomas. Some are graduate students. They went to and did masters or postgraduate diploma and so on. But they are not feeling the economy because they don't have a good job, a job which can bring in a living wage and also other amenities, other benefits of being, working with the people of your kind. That's the biggest challenge we are having in Uganda, because the census has shown us that we have what we call needs. They are not in employment, but also not in education and training. These are usually younger people between 18 or 17 and 30. The census indicated that there are about 5 million of them across the country, the needs. And this is where we want to focus most of the ideas of getting now the larger pie, increasing to create jobs to employ these younger people. Because also this tendency of telling them you go and create a job for yourself is not very practical. I know some of them can. I'm an economist. I know that among
but not
100 people, there are only 3 entrepreneurs. The 97, we are supposed to be workers. We offer labor and know-how and skills, and we produce. So government is very, very alive to this, and we are working to ensure that we get the big economy work to create jobs. That's why we are investing in industrial parks. That's why we are trying all of these experiments of getting sugar factories in the north, employ some people there. We are trying to get these science and technology and innovation parks to come up, because we know those are the only things which can employ an educated person. Not a garden of 2 acres. Okay, some resort there, but they are not happy. They will tell you, I'm not feeling the economy, because they went to school and studied computer science. They studied
actually, I think yesterday, a few days ago, the Daily Monitor had this story about the biggest number of graduates who actually do not get absorbed in employment, business graduates and ICT graduates. And that's something perhaps also government could be looking into.
That's what
how to actually create opportunities for these people. So you talk about, you've talked about PDM and wealth creation, and I know the president has been really, I think if there's anything that has probably dominated much of his engagements this year, that has been it. Wealth creation, PDM. He's been in Bukedi recently and Karamoja. But there is a concern. I was actually speaking to someone a few days ago, and this is an interesting observation he made. He might be alone, or there could be other people who see things from his perspective. And he said, when I see the pictures that are taken of the president with some of these model farmers, these are clearly not people who have benefited from PDM. These are already people who were established. If someone has 4 acres of coffee, for example, that's not 1 million shillings from PDM that made him get there. If someone has thousands of birds, poultry, that is definitely not money that they got from PDM. So why wouldn't the president actually identify more with the actual beneficiaries of PDM? If someone got 1 million shillings, you probably expect them to have a few goats, a few pigs, a few birds here and there, and not these seemingly established people who probably already had the means before this PDM intervention came up.
PDM targets people who have productive inputs, what we call factors of production. They have some land. They are willing to work on that land to commercialize. They have been doing subsistence. They have been working before. They had a garden of matoke, a garden of potatoes somewhere in Kabale, a garden of simsim. They were working, but subsistence really, to earn very little money, but majorly to get food. Ugandans, by the way, even when you go to the villages, you'll find they have the food. People are well fed in many places. Of course, definitely it can't be universal. Some areas have got hunger, but by and large, we have been a good country in producing food. We look healthy, we look okay, but we don't have money. Those who are earning some money, they earn very little because they're engaging in low value enterprises. You find people growing tobacco, growing some cotton, growing simsim, growing maize, and so on a small scale. You have 2 acres and they're growing those things. So PDM came, therefore, to support them, because most of them have been reporting that if they had access to finance, and indeed evidence had shown that those who had gotten access had transformed their enterprises, they would do that. So government came, brought PDM as a stopgap measure to create an alternative, because the commercial banks will never give money to these small people. And this is, I want to tell you, Judith, and I told you, by the way, you people, like a couple of years ago when we were starting PDM, that is going to be transformative. Please go and cover yourself. Don't wait for the president. And you see what PDM is doing in the villages of Uganda now. People have gone back to production. You'll find that about 37% of the money, about 2 trillion now, which has been disbursed, has gone into crop, but crop of high value. About another 26% has gone into poultry. Now we are about to have a big challenge with the eggs. in terms of market for them. And that's what we are working on now.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third enterprise is piggery. Then the fourth is coffee. Then we have others, fruits, and so on. These are good, high-value enterprises, and therefore we are likely to see those Ugandans. But of course, the president cannot go everywhere and show every single. They take him to a few of those they can access. Some of them were already doing the enterprise, they are scaling. Others were doing them as subsistence, they are commercializing. And you can see the testimonies they give. But as they say, results will be out.
Stephen is telling me it's time for us to take a break. Let's go for a break, and then we come back. I want us to talk about the year of campaigns 2025 and the expenditure that comes with that and how that also impacts the economy. That's after the break. This is VPN. Welcome back from the break. It's 25 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is still Views, People and News, and I am pleased to have with me Mr. Ramadan Ggoobi, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and the Secretary to the Treasury. We're talking about strategies to fix Uganda's economy in 2025 amidst declining foreign aid. So before we went to the break, you had given us a very good impression of what is really happening, how we are doing, how the economy is doing so far, and the inroads or the strategies that government is taking to actually ensure that the figures at the macro actually translate and can be felt at the micro level. I want us to talk a little bit now about the coming year. It is a year of campaigns. It's heavy on politics, and we know that every time we get into this political season, there's a lot of money that actually gets spent. It's heavy spending by our politicians seeking re-election and so on. Those who are still trying to make inroads in that area are also coming up. And also we tend to go into a very difficult time many times, actually post-election. What is your reading actually this time around? Do you think it's going to be any different? Do you think it's going to be better? Do you envisage us spending actually more? What do you see are the likely implications of the campaign year will be like on the state of the economy generally?
You know, I don't live in the future.
But you can make projections. As economists, you make projections a lot of the time. Yes,
I know. But I have a feeling, Judith, a honest feeling, that this election is going to be very different. And those who are still frozen in the past in terms of the models to use, the approach to politics, they are likely to get a very, very big beating. Ugandans, I have a feeling that they have moved on from the elections of emotions and they are more on election of interest in terms of especially wealth creation. Our agenda as government is on wealth creation, and the national budget you are going to see, which we are putting together, is a mirror image of the national budget this year. It is only actually targeting more resources on getting those ATMs funded to work for Ugandans so that they can feel those numbers we're talking about, the macro numbers at the micro level. That's where our focus is. And that's the budget. It's funding ATMs and funding the enablers. And within the enablers, we have, of course, security. We have the roads and the railways. We are beginning our SGR construction next month. We have the electricity transmission, especially taking electricity to those productive areas, especially industrial parks with those power substations, but also to the different parts of the country which don't have electricity. And then irrigation, funding irrigation to mitigate the climate change, and then funding disaster management, as well as capital providing more money in UDB, in Emyoga, in UDC. We have also brought on board Invite to fund exporters. So that's what we are doing, enablers and ATMs. Now, sometimes people get excited when politics comes and they think money is going. Of course, there is some money which the politicians have saved and they will spend. Some are going to mortgage their houses to get re-elected or to seek for election. Not a very good idea, in my view. That money we anticipate it, and the central bank works on a strategy to mop out such money so that it doesn't cause inflation. We have good time series data to do that, to know how the election cycles move, and that's what the central bank prepares for. At the fiscal side, where I'm more conversant, that's what I'm telling you, that the budget is more or less a mirror image of what you are seeing, and even getting better in targeting money to production, not elections.
So you've talked a lot, largely about what has been working well, but then what this year, since the new financial year started, or generally across the year, where have you seen challenges?
Those who know me, they know I don't like to focus my energy and the carol is on challenges.
Yeah, but they give you learning opportunities. So
I know those are words of people who want to always comfort themselves by failing to do certain things. For me, actually, I want to tell you honestly, all my life, I look at things from the opportunity point of view, where some people are looking at challenges. I don't even like those papers which emphasize problem statement. Let us state the problem. I've always looked for opportunity. Why not statement of the opportunity? And once you model your life in such a way that you are looking at everything in terms of opportunity, actually it turns out to be an opportunity. You have seen now, for example, you have taken advantage in Uganda of COVID. Everybody was, COVID is going to finish us off. COVID is going to be worse than the economic depression of the 1940s, 30s, 40s. You have seen in Uganda we took advantage of COVID and we started on building domestic industry to replace the imports. And it has worked. That's why you see now when you go to supermarkets, goods with the label made in Uganda have multiplied. I've already told you here, even exports. We have added more exports because the president guided all of us to look at this COVID as an opportunity for us to build a local industry. Now, for me, I look at binding constraints for Uganda's, ability to exploit our potential, and there are 4 of them. I've told you already. Capital. We are a capital-constrained country. Number 2 is technology. We have limited know-how on most of the things that the world demands today. Then 3, infrastructure. We still have a huge infrastructure gap, which will take some time to fix, but we are on it. You can see the road network, the railway line. We are a landlocked country without a good functional and fast railway. Then we have the 4th one, the binding constraint of markets. Of markets, our ability to access or penetrate those markets where we have signed the access protocols is still a binding constraint. For me, those are the key issues we should focus on. Now, the area of, for example, climate change would be a very big challenge, but we can take advantage of it. Let me tell you, Judith, in the coming years, most of the industries that have been using dirty sources of energy are going to look for clean energy. and clean energy can only be produced in places like ours. As we decarbonize the world, industries are going to move to places where we can produce renewable energy. Now you will find that renewable energy, unlike these other fossils, oil and the gas, which are dirty, renewable energy cannot be transported. They could transport coal, for example. They could transport coal and take it to Japan, take it to China, from wherever it was, in South Africa, wherever. They transport it. You can't transport renewable energy. They can't transport solar. They can't transport hemp. They can't transport wind.
But how are we innovating also to make sure that we are not just recipients of technology that promotes clean energy, but we are equally contributing to that?
Yeah, that's what that's the point I'm trying to build. That therefore, that's why in our STI program we are saying, let's fund investors and innovators who are able to partner with foreigners to build, for example, to make all of those things which are going to be demanded in electrifying the green growth. Things like solar panels, things like batteries, lithium batteries, things like hydrogen and so on. All of those who are coming in that line, that's where we are looking on how to support them. So we are going to take advantage, and that's what I want us as Uganda to work on, and we are working on it with STI industry. How do we take advantage of the decarbonization agenda to mitigate against or adapt climate change, and actually we use it to grow even much faster and transform ourselves. For me and my team, that's what we are looking at the ministry, and we are working a strategy we call a 10-fold growth strategy. We already got the direction approved by cabinet. It has informed the National Development Plan for NDP for itself is looking at how to get these ATMs. Now, we are going to work out and concretize the implementation. But the strategy should be get those people with the brains to do the things come, those who have the technology, but also the capital. They partner with us
and transfer the knowledge.
Yes, and we produce the things.
That's interesting. I know the world is basically going green, but also there's a conversation about, okay, in countries or economies which are discovering fossil fuels and so on, how do you then strike that balance between still allowing them explore their carbon or fossil fuels, and at the same time be, embrace this green economies and so on, green technologies? What's our plan as a country? It's
going to be a marathon, not a sprint. Decarbonization is going to be a marathon. It's going to take some time because it's not very easy to go green overnight.
In just a day, yeah.
It's expensive. It requires a lot of system changes and culture change. Therefore, for example, our oil and gas industry still stands a very good chance of getting out all these resources in the next 2 decades or so. But I want to tell you, the future is green. There's no doubt about it. That's where everybody is focused. That's why we need to take advantage and be among those, because the sun is going to be shining here. The rivers are going to flow faster as the rains become, heavier. We just need to take advantage, build get the power, the clean energy. Now, this clean energy cannot be exported. We shall not put it in a container to take it to China or to Japan, where now the industries they will have to come and relocate and come here. Now, we are preparing ourselves so that we can manage these partnerships
for
us to get the value that we should get out of them.
Okay. So there's a comment here. This year alone has had a lot of challenges, including, of course, the business sector. When you speak to a lot of people doing business, things have become quite uncomfortable. We've seen strikes. We've seen some multinationals leaving. There have been concerns over RAPEX. At what point are we now? Because there's still confusion on who does what agency does what. So even where, for example, do exporters go and so on? I don't know.
Exporters go to the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Is our overall coordinator in government when it comes to matters trade. And they have merged just two institutions, the Export Promotions Board with the Free Zones Authority, created one authority. It's even now much easier and for the traders, for the business people to go in one house and get their things sorted. If they are going to set up an investment, then they go to Uganda Investment Authority, which has set up a one-stop shop in Ikololo, where all the government services are coordinated. So there is no problem. When it comes to the overall RAPEX, now I think it is sinking in. Everybody is understanding that it was good to stop the overlaps, the duplications, spending money on so many things which don't add value to Ugandans, and yet those things could be done in a more coordinated way through these ministries. Because the question was, should we close the ministry and leave the agencies, or we get the agencies to the ministry? And you can't be a genius to see that you require a ministry which has different departments.
To give the policy direction as well.
To give the policy, and at the same time they have a unit to go ahead and implement. In any case, most of the implementation in Uganda is done by the private sector, by the way. You need to know that. Government, we don't implement things directly. Well, our job is to procure the private sector. So you have institutions that we are spending a lot of money to procure. Now, they are going to have that procurement done by a unit in the ministry, and then the private sector goes ahead and implement as they have been doing.
So there's another one here, the banking sector. We've seen what has happened with the Bank of Uganda recently, and the other commercial banks in generally. Issues of, say, advancing more microfinance loans or SACCOs, the issues of interest rates. People are losing confidence in the banking sector. What can then be done to actually get more? And yet government is trying to work to make sure there are more people in the money economy. And by bringing more people in the money economy, you definitely want them to go into safe banking practices. But when we see what is happening, people are getting scared of actually moving in that direction.
Why are you saying so?
That's a comment.
I don't think so. People have a lot of confidence in the banking sector, and when you look at for example, you know, Ugandans, we know how to exaggerate things.
You think it's an exaggeration?
Yeah, because private sector credit has grown. That's for us. That's where we measure the confidence. Private sector credit, people going for money in the financial sectors to do business, and they are paying back because the non-performing loans have reduced. Now, I think 4.3% from a high of over 5.9%. Private sector credit is upwards of 21 trillion, I think. I don't have the latest numbers. I need to check them. But everybody can check them. They are there on the website of Bank of Uganda. So when people talk of loss of confidence, which parameters do they use?
My assumption, I could be wrong, is that the statistics you're giving are figures that probably you came with months ago. Is how recent is this? Because we are looking at recent developments over the last few weeks. The hacking of the central bank is something that is quite recent.
By the way,
500 million fake currencies that were found, fake notes that were found in Postbank is something that happened just a few weeks ago, and so many other things.
In every life, there will be those small things which happen. Hitches. They are called hitches. What is 500 million of fake currency? Of course, that one is criminal. It's fraud, and the responsible entities get to handle it. The one of the money which got lost, half of which the governor said had recovered it. That's another fraud, which is under investigation, and of course results will come out, and everybody will know. In
the meantime, people should just continue with business as usual. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. There's nothing, in life is a business cycle, Judith. Even in your home, you can't be happy all the time. There will be certain things which happen. You can even quarrel at midnight. Children can break plates. Does it mean that the house is in a crisis or what? These are things which happen.
All right. Thank you, Ggoobi. Let's take a break, and after the break, we're going to, of course, open the phone lines. You can give us a call on any of these lines: 0393933933. 0393262933, 0393262934, 0393266933, 0701933934, and lastly 0751933900. We'll be back. Welcome back from the break. Mr. Ramadan and I are just laughing about this. He's telling me that 500 million is just very little money in fake currencies and in fake notes. And I was telling him
that when you have a GDP of 202 trillion shillings. And something has happened about 500 million. Of course, 500 million as individual income, it's a lot of money. Or even as a family wealth, is a lot of money. But here we are talking about national income. Don't make the 500 to actually appear as if the entire currency in Uganda has a problem. For me, that's where I usually have a challenge. That someone brings a small thing out of the... Of course, at a micro level, you are looking at it in a different perspective. But remember, you are discussing a national economy. I came here for us to discuss a national economy, not to discuss my
500.
If it was my money,
that would be
even 5 million. It's a lot of money for me.
The concern with that is how does that kind of money in fake notes make its way to
fraud? Fraud is a fact of life which we must deal with.
We have a caller.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling from Kawente North.
Who is this?
Kawoya Chigongo Samuel.
Chigongo Samuel.
Yes. Chigongo Samuel.
Yes, Samuel.
Now, I've observed that the Uganda shilling is very stable, the currency. And yet, to my understanding, I'm not an economist, but I am knowledgeable. Now, yet our policy is import substitution, export promotion. Now, I think that one will be going against our policy. And then the other thing is, if being stable could be explained on other factors. Yet we want more activities, more transactions, business transactions to improve the economy. What does the big man, the technocrat, the secretary to judiciary say? I mean,
to the treasury.
I don't know.
Yes. Thank you, Samuel. Another one. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Your connection is poor. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, really.
I think he needs to move out away from the radio.
Yeah. Hello? Okay, I think we'll just get other callers later. Samuel is saying he has observed that the currency, the Uganda shilling, is very stable lately, and yet our policies, import substitution, export promotion. Yes.
Good morning, Judith.
Good morning.
Thanks for the show.
Who?
Thanks for the show.
You're welcome. May I please know who I'm talking to?
You're talking to Ggoobi, Michael.
Yes, Ggoobi.
And Dr. Ramadan, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm always myself to hear you back on KFM. I have like one or two issues which I want to
yes, please.
To for me. One,
proceed.
We have had the local council leadership. What I mean the LOC or at the district leadership actually. Yes. I've always complained that from the Ministry of Finance, you're not helping them when they collect revenue from the local people. They bring back the treasury this side to your office, let me say to the Ministry of Finance. But when they bring their budget on your table and they want to do something for the district, you either release the money late towards the end of the financial year, or the money which comes, it can't do much for the things they want to do for the community. How have you come up to fight that issue? Two, our city is really alarming. The capital of the country, is it the issue? Is it bit finances? The ones that are being not released in time? We have to consider these roads and each and these projects to kick off, or this politics which killing the development of Kampala to the city which everybody would wish to love to see. Thanks for this.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Yes. We can stop here for now. Okay.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, may I know who I'm talking to?
I'm called Salfa.
Sorry?
I'm called Salfa.
Salfa?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Now, my question is, the government is always introducing a lot of programs in order to get the common man out of poverty.
Yes.
But every program ends without finding a solution. They introduce another one. ATM, what. They all end in vain. Now, my question is, but now I think the biggest problem is corruption. Because the test is within. So what is the solution to that? To corruption? What is the consequence for corruption, basically?
Appreciate the big man to be there today for us. But for me and my team, we are calling for service delivery, equal opportunity, transparency. Whoever embeds on government funds, the public are waiting to see the action which is taking place or the action taken. We don't want compromises all the time. And the person who has corrupt government funds has been given bail within 2 days and has already have mansions or buildings in the cities or urban centers, every town in this country. It kills the growth of the economical activity. So we need this service with integrity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juma. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think we can now give you the platform, the microphone, to respond to these concerns. I think Salfa asked a question and then he kind of also answered it himself. But let's start with Samuel, who talked about the stability of the currency. We want to see more activity. He's concerned that the currency is very stable and this is probably upsetting the import substitution, export promotion. So to Samuel, we shouldn't have a stable currency. You can now next time Judith tells me Ugandans are not happy with the currency, it is so stable. The truth of the matter, you can't do much when the currency is fluctuating all the time. Stability of foreign exchange is a key fundamental requirement, because it helps both the exporters and importers to plan, and also it helps in reducing inflation. One of the reasons why our inflation has now stabilized to 2.9%, from the high of 10.7% that time when every Ugandan was concerned, is because of stable
currency. The central bank has worked to really stabilize our monetary policy, but also working in close partnership with us at the fiscal side to produce these exports and so on. And as a result, the currency is stable. So it doesn't go against our policy to promote exports. I know what he wants, I think, to refer to that when the currency is too strong, the Uganda shilling gets so strong, it can discourage the buyers of our goods, like a coffee, because they will find it expensive. You know, Judith, when for example, $1 has been at 4,000, as it was, it was edging there a few months ago, and now it reduces to 3,650. And a foreigner comes to buy our coffee. Remember, a foreigner comes with the dollars, and yet for us, our farmers in Mbale, in Butambala, they know shillings. So he has to first go to a forex bureau in Kampala, change the dollars to shillings to go and buy coffee. But now, when the dollar was at 4,000, he would get more shillings in $1. And then he will now buy more coffee.
Yeah.
But when now the exchange rate reduces, you will get less shillings, and it will be as if Uganda's coffee has increased, the price has increased, and yet the farmers have not changed the price. That's what I think he's trying to mean. But
it's a good thing for us to have a stable currency.
It's a very good thing for us to stabilize the currency. Number two, Michael Ekode, on the leaders at the local level, the local government leadership, who are claiming that when we collect the revenue on their behalf and via URA and put in the consolidated fund, then this money delays to go back, or when it goes back, it is not enough. This actually has been one of the, I think, the loudest things to be raised by local leadership. It's not true. The truth is this. Local governments plan that they will, for example, collect 2 billion in a certain district. I can say a district, say Kweni, can say we shall collect local revenue worth 2 billion. Now, that's the money we put in their budget. As we budget, we've finalized the budget. Now, along the year, they may collect 3 billion. But remember, they planned 2, and that's what the parliament appropriated. So we shall give them the 2 billion, but not the 3 billion, until parliament has appropriated that money. So we have to issue a supplementary, take it to parliament, like we are about to issue one, for parliament to appropriate that money for them to be able to spend the extra billion which they collected over and above what they had planned. Now, sometimes they call that delay, but it's because of the planning itself. If they had planned 3 and they budgeted for 3, they would have not delayed at all. But the delay sometimes comes because they have to appropriate again that money. Otherwise, for us, whenever this money comes and there is a budget, within a few hours, I can say at most 2 days, that money has gone back to the local government. On the city, Kampala is right on the infrastructure. Everybody is concerned. We neglected this infrastructure in the past, but now you can see Kampala is a beehive of activities. Even where I am here, I'm looking in a window where the road is under construction. The roads are being constructed, and we're going to construct them. Kampala is going to be a city which everybody can be proud of in a few months to come, when we have handled most of this infrastructure. I think Sulfur on the anti-poverty programs is saying they haven't worked in the past. We keep on bringing in new ones. I want to assure Sulfur that success is about design and scale. In the past, we could have had these anti-poverty programs. Some of them were not very well designed. Some were well designed but not well funded. There was some budget tokenism, giving them very little money. We have learnt our lessons, But also, I don't want you to say that they haven't worked. Actually, they have worked. Poverty in Uganda has been reducing. Things have been reducing out of what? In 1990, poverty in Uganda was 54%. 54. More than half of Ugandans were below poverty line of $1 a day. In 2020, it was 20. And we are working to reduce it much, faster. So the new programs, they are intended to scale, but also to build on the foundation which those other programs which were underfunded worked on. That's why we are putting more money in PDM. It is the first time in the history of Uganda that we have 1 trillion shillings in 1 year being sent out to fight poverty, but most importantly, to fight it in a productive way, not by giving people money to buy blankets and so on, but by giving them money to invest, and they make more money for themselves. Lastly, Juma, on the service delivery and so on, and is saying corruption. Of course, corruption has been a big problem. But Ugandans, I want to tell you, and I've been saying this severally before and now, research shows you corruption is not fought by just talking about it, by walking or protesting, by going to church to pray, that you have a national prayer against corruption. Corruption is fought by putting in place automation. You automate systems to leave audit trails and also reduce interpersonal kind of interface of people by doing performance audits and good budgeting, removing budget games, by procuring using systems, and above all, by putting in place strong sanctions against corruption. And that is what government is doing right now. Those areas I've told you, those things will work. The rest, they don't work.
So I want us to go back still on the issue of corruption. During the State of the Nation address this year, I think the President made a very clear call, and he alluded to the fact that there was a clique of individuals actually involved in the high levels of corruption that we're witnessing. And he actually mentioned the Ministry of Finance as one of those agencies or one of those ministries heavily involved in this. I don't know what conversations you have had within the ministry to actually get this vice out, and what is being done.
Number one, you remember at the beginning of this financial year in July, we returned the national budget to Parliament for the first time in the history of Uganda. Because about 750 billion shillings had been reallocated by Parliament from where they had been budgeted to other things. And the President said, please take back that money where it's supposed to be. And since then, we are now implementing a budget which government put together, and the money is in the right places. Number two, you have also heard that a number of audits have been carried out, and there are a number of things which are being done by the various institutions of government, including CID, including the Auditor General, the IGG. We are also having internal controls which you have put in place. We have a client charter where all clients of our Ministry of Finance can have clear understanding of their rights, and this tendency of middlemen working with the ministry over. Never. You come to my corridors, you will not find there people used to find crowding corridors. Middlemen, they have come to...
First, tell me something about the middlemen a little bit. What were their roles exactly?
People
what were
in
they
town had turned themselves into like pursuers of payments. Minister of Finance will deal with money, budget, and then releasing money. So someone goes and tells someone that, you can't get money from finance unless you pass it through me. And they would now come and say, I'm pursuing so-and-so's pay, so-and-so's budget, and so on. All of that nonsense, people crowding government, those people are out of the way. We had also areas where syndicates could be clearly seen in areas of those things like court cases. We used to have mandamus orders. They call them mandamus something. There is that difficult word, lawyers, how they love those difficult words. The judges issuing orders for us to pay money, or else the Secretary of Treasury will be arrested, and Attorney General. It's a mandamus order. Now, when I went to the ministry, there were many of those cases of mandamus. You find every week you are receiving about 2 orders. You pay this one money, government owes them money, or else you are arrested. Now, I sat in a meeting with these 2 other key people in the government somewhere. I remember very well we were at a swimming pool, and I said, how do I, because there's one who had brought a mandamus order of World War II, that some people lost his grandparents, served the government, lost something, and the judge had issued a mandamus. So I said, what is this? How do I go about these things? So many, orders. We were 3 of us. We agreed to go and work in our respective areas to stamp out this, because it was a syndicate between the some people in one agency and another working to get these orders funded, paid. And I want to tell you, I've spent now like almost a year without a mandamus order. We stamped out that by each of us working in our respective institutions.
But the court awards still happen.
The court awards are there, those which are genuine. They go and government, of course, does mistakes. Those agencies, they can make mistakes, people destroying people's property or taking over someone's property or stopping them from doing business, and they take them to court for fairness. And the court awards, of course, we pay those awards. We have paid them. But there was that also other area where you could find the money is leaking. That one we stopped it. So we've worked, Judith, and I think by and large the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is one of those most efficient institutions in the government, very responsive, and also with the zero tolerance to corruption. If there is any Ugandan really who knows anyone in finance who is engaged in asking for money to deliver service they are supposed to deliver, let me know. And you will see action done. Those who have brought feedback, they have gotten the action.
All right, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about foreign aid and our dependence on it for some time now over the years. How is this now? I know government has been fighting a lot to actually curb our dependency on foreign aid, but still, even when you sit and apportion and disburse money to different government agencies or ministries, there is still a percentage that comes from foreign aid. What is the status right now?
I don't want you to use that word anymore, foreign aid. Uganda is no longer a country of receiving donations.
What are we receiving?
We by and large borrow the money. Okay. But in those loans that we get, there are some grant element in them. The grant element is put in to make the loan concessional, a little bit more concessional, like from World Bank. They also gave us recently a grant of a road in Yumbe. The entire road is a grant. There is also the one of GROW to support the women enterprises.
Yes.
But by and large, the money you see in the budget, 98% of it is your revenue or your own money you've borrowed and you're going to pay back. And I've been hearing this donor funding reducing. There's nothing like donor funding. We go out there, get good money to invest in good projects which are going to contribute to the growth of Uganda, and there's no big challenge with that.
But then the issue of course, you're saying, well, this is money we are borrowing and we are going to pay back. There has been a concern about sustainability of our debt. You know, is that something that worries you? Something that is it still within healthy? Are we still within the healthy limits, or we have gone above? Because that's an issue of concern for a lot of people. How sustainable is our debt?
A few weeks ago, my Minister of Finance and even His Excellency the President talked about the debt. Our debt is sustainable. We have Uganda, one of the most healthy debt portfolios amongst our peers. You can check the numbers yourself. They are there. The good thing with information these days is public, internationally, public knowledge. You can go and Google just debt by country, and you see each country in the world, how it is doing. Uganda's debt to GDP ratio now is 46.9%. Whereas the service cost has increased because we borrowed money in the recent past to build those dams, to build the oil roads and so on, which are now paying. We are comfortable by paying this debt and remaining with enough revenue to finance development. And we have a very good strategy of fiscal consolidation. Also, we have been implementing to mobilize more revenue, to reduce commercial borrowing, especially for those things which are not having very high return on investment, which, by the way, we don't borrow for in Uganda. We borrow for those countries you see which have a problem with paying back the debt. They borrowed money to pay salaries, to give money to government people, to travel around, to buy cars. We don't do that in Uganda. We borrow money for a particular project. We borrow money to build a dam, to build a road, to build a market, to build even these things like schools, hospitals. We don't want to borrow money for them, which is expensive. We borrow only concession, like World Bank money, which is literally you pay back what you got. You don't pay interest. Those are the monies we use for health, for education. But the money where we pay interest is for infrastructure, is for businesses where government is going to invest in things which are going to bring money back. And that's why our debt has remained as a... But I know it has been a big conversation in Uganda. However many words I will use, some Ugandans will never believe. I don't know why. We don't want to believe in the numbers.
So you say at 46.9% debt to GDP ratio, we are still within the health limits.
Yes.
So if we cross to say 60% or beyond, that would be...
60,
but couldn't we do better? Couldn't we still do better than 46.9%? Can't we still have it lower than that?
It's a choice. You can decide not to do anything. And you stop the investments. We stop investing in oil to get out. We don't build the standard gauge railway.
Okay.
We don't build the refinery. We don't build the roads we are building. Now, like this flyover in Kampala, these roads which are connecting the city to all parts of the country. We can decide. It's a choice. It's a policy matter.
So I am also glad that you've mentioned oil and SGR. That's where I actually wanted us to head next. I think Ugandans want to know what's the status of our oil production. I mean, how far has it gone? Because we are talking about oil. where is the money? What is basically happening there right now?
Okay, oil is coming very soon.
When?
The timelines have been given.
They've
clearly
been changing and shifting over the years.
No, there are those which have now been sealed in since then. And you can see the activities, really. In terms of the pipeline, it has progressed so well. They are now laying the pipes. We expect by end of next year, these pipelines will be done and we are going to have oil flowing in those pipes. We are now finalizing the final steps for the refinery. The FID, the final investment decision for the refinery will be announced early next year. We have that oil area is a beehive of activities. Have you been there?
I want to go there. I actually haven't.
Now, this is the problem. You should be the one to know what is on the ground.
I'm looking forward.
And you don't ask questions.
Next time you have a trip, please tag me along. I really want to go.
In Uganda, we say that our belief is in the eyes.
Seeing is believing.
And touching. I want all Ugandans who are doubting of oil and so on, please, it's a few kilometers from here. Go to Bunyoro there, and you see what's happening. It's, by the way, a wonderful place to go to.
Let's talk about SGR. Of course, this is a project that we are all waiting for because we've seen what's working in the region. Kenya, Tanzania, it's really easing movement. It's making things quite comfortable for the citizens. However, we have a problem of bureaucracy in Uganda. Delays in having projects breaking off, implementation, and so on. Are we going to see this? You said we are starting the SGR in January. Okay, that's next year.
Yeah.
But there is a concern here also. Someone just said you've recently launched this, which has been stalled for many years on the Ugandan side. There are huge hopes for this project, but as we know, based on previous programs and delays created before on our side, on Uganda's side, bureaucracy could still derail the efforts further.
Now I'm assuring you, the SGR is starting. It's going to be constructed in the next 4 years. You'll have a fantastic standard gauge railway transporting cargo and the Ugandans from Malaba to Kampala, and then we extend it as a second phase from Kampala to the border of Congo and to the border of the Mirama Hills in Rwanda. And then they pick it from there to go to those countries. But also we shall get the leg which goes to South Sudan via Nimule. So the SGR is on this January.
Okay.
Some of you actually should Uganda get some jobs because we negotiated a very good contract where local content in terms of jobs and in terms of materials used and so on and so forth, they are guaranteed in the contract.
Oh, that's interesting. So another concern here is SGR and AGOA. What are the hard conversations that financiers had to have after the passing of AHA?
AHA, of course, brought some controversies and caused some problems, but I want to assure Ugandans now that we have overcome that. The entire world has now accepted Uganda as a sovereign country. There are certain values we have, and we legislate for the people, and they have agreed to work with us for as long as we assure them that we don't discriminate against people. And we have done that, so they are no longer very big issues. With AGOA, which was suspended by the Americans, that's their decision. As you can see, I've told you, export numbers have increased since they suspended AGOA. We exported $8.4 billion this last 12 months to October. And we are working to get alternative markets. And perhaps America will come back later, realizing that they can't sit in Washington to also decide on how Uganda should do, or Ugandans should do they should live their own lives. In any case, we have also been working with the World Bank on this. We have put in place mitigation measures to ensure that also some Ugandans don't take advantage of the law to start harassing certain people. The law is clear. It just stops three key vices. You don't recruit people into homosexuality. You don't promote homosexuality, but also don't commit the other capital offenses of rape, defilement, and so on. That's all. But these are the illogicalities which had been put in the law were removed by the court. Those of people reporting and so on, those were removed.
Well, we're going to take a break, but when we return, we're going to open our phone lines once again so you can give us a call. But also, Mr. Ggoobi, I would, in the next, when we return after the calls, I would also like you to give us some 5 key things that you actually think will turn around things for us in the coming year. Welcome back from the break. It's 25 minutes to 11 o'clock. This is Views People and News, and we are talking about the strategy to fix Uganda's economy in 2025 amidst declining foreign aid, which Mr. Ggoobi has corrected me to say it is no longer we're not using foreign aid. It is grants and borrowing. We have a caller. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, madam. Thank you, KFM.
Thank you. May I please know who it is I'm talking to?
Kawoya Chigongo Samuel. Kawoya Chigongo Samuel.
Chigongo Samuel. Yes, please.
Yes. I would like to ask a question concerning public investment management system. Lately, there has been a cry where the foreign government sponsor part of the project, then the government of Uganda sponsor part of the money, but we fail to meet our commitment, and the project will get halted or we lose the money in between. And sometimes it's because of supervision and management. What does the PS have to console us who are optimists? For us who think things are getting better, what does he have to say? Whether that situation has changed, for God and account.
Thank you, Samuel. Yes. Hello? 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 Good morning. Yes, please. Good morning.
This is Komaket Job. I'm calling from Mukono.
Yes, Komaket Job. Good morning. Please proceed.
My question to the Permanent Secretary is, one, how is government planning to probably get money from? I've been seeing the pressure moving around, and farmers are giving their experiences on how much they're earning every year. I want to know, how does government intend to tap into that adventure and then get that money out in form of taxes? Because farmers are talking about 150 million, 500 million every year. Are they actually paying taxes or not? Secondly, what is government doing about expenditures in terms of the huge public debt which are coming up? State House itself is having units that are not catered for in law. So what is government doing about it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Job. Hello? Hello? Yes, good morning. Hello? Okay, I think we will go with those two for now. We have another? Yes, hello?
Juma is on.
Juma again. Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, Juma, proceed.
I'd like Papa to highlight a bit. IGG always struggle alone. And IGG release annually the suspect, the culprit, and submit to the judicial. But now, who else can join hand with the IGG? Because IGG is making a U-turn to come back to the Wananchi to fight corruption. And yet we have officers who are legible, who are responsible to fight that. Me, I have my subject called corruption. I want to search about it until I will see that any government who will come and fight it down on the road, I will say that, yeah, here we are good to go. Okay. I would like to know properly, from IDG, who else can join hands from those judicial offices because of their sanctioning? They sanction the innocent people, but the main culprit within the government themselves, they leave them to move freely like a free range system.
Thank you, Juma. Thank you. Are we picking any more callers? Okay, fine. I think we'll have this 1, 2, 3. Yes. Samuel is asking about the public investment management system, and I think he's touching on the issue of co-financing.
Yes, thank you, Samuel. I think he's talking about the number one in the PIMS, for us to be able to implement projects that we've studied. Clearly, we have the feasibility studies. They have completed the entire public investment management system requirements. We have emphasized this in the government now. You can't have a project in the budget which has not been studied. The number of people who are used to just directing technical people. This one is very urgent. Start. But now when you start, you realize that you shouldn't have started, because that's not where the project should be. You are telling someone to start drilling water where they haven't tested to find out where there is water down there. So they start, and then they realize they are drilling in a wrong place. They should drill in another one. That's why now we emphasize PIMS. And my ministry is in lead in ensuring that our department there facilitates the appraisal of projects, but also the implementation. We have appointed in my ministry someone as an overall monitor to ensure that they can report in real time challenges which are impeding implementation, and we deal with them. We have found most of them have been humanly weaknesses and mistakes. So we are dealing with these problems. But where also government does not necessarily have to do things alone, we have a PPP unit, public private partnership unit, which is working to close these PPPs. It has been a very interesting journey, cumbersome journey of learning. You know, PPPs are not very easy because the private sector has to trust government for a long time, beyond even the tenure of those in the government, that they will be able to recover their money, but also to de-risk them. But also government has to trust that the private sector will add value to the project. So we are now working to see that this also brings in another way of doing things. The second one was he talked of how is government planning to get money through taxes from these farmers who are making huge profits that he's been seeing from these PDM tours? We get taxes, of course. When people make money, they end up buying the things which we tax. That one shouldn't worry. In Uganda, we mainly use indirect taxes. When a farmer grows more coffee, gets more money, they will go to spend it in the bar, and we shall get them from there. They will pay some excise duty and VAT on the alcohol, or on the sugar, or on all of those sorts of things that we buy. So the bottom line is, let us facilitate Ugandans to make money. And once everybody has gotten some money, like Judith was saying, please just make sure that these macro numbers, we fill them in the pockets. Then every Ugandan will pay the tax and we get more revenue.
Job also talked about the issue of public expenditure.
Yes,
what is government doing about this? We
have been cutting expenditure in these areas which are not productive. We have reduced allocation of money for travels abroad, for buying cars, for workshops and entertainment, for what we call retooling, buying this government furniture and so on, carpets. We have cut all that money and put it in a PDM, put it in facilitating scientists to work. And but still, there is a long way to go in some areas. Some of the votes are protected by the law, and so on and so forth. Those are the areas which we are going to. It's going to be a marathon. But I want to tell you that fiscal consolidation is on, and expenditure rationalization is one of the areas we are looking at. On the IG, who's now turning to is saying that the IG is
turning to
turning to the public to fight corruption instead of working with the rest of government to do so. But you see, as the public also, in a war without involvement of wananchi, it's a lost war. Even those who have fought in the bush war told us they succeeded because they worked with the people. The people of Uganda know who's corrupt, how corrupt they are. How do you are the people who interact with us in government. You know how they hide the money and so on, how they negotiate for the bribes. If the Wananchi actually worked with the IEG and other institutions, this vice would go. But as I told you, bottom line, Judith, what works in fighting corruption is getting the systems automated such that people are not interacting in a bar to do a procurement from there, to ensure that we have clear, good budgeting and good auditing, especially performance audits, value for money audits, forensic audits, then ensuring that the judiciary is independent, media is independent. Media, you are so effective in ensuring that corruption actually is stamped out than most of these other even government agencies, because an independent media will follow up issues, investigate them, report them. Who on earth doesn't respect media? Because we are the most powerful, you know, in exposing. And corruption is about exposing. Once you exposed, done. It can easily be taken from there by the law. Some of these very high-profile corruption fights have been initiated by the media, reporting scandals happening in certain entities. So that's where the emphasis should be.
Well, but I'm glad that this is coming from you, who sits actually in government. But sometimes also the feeling is the media is not also appreciated enough, and that's why we have some restrictive policies. We have we're also met with a lot of hostility from the government as well. We are frustrated. The media is quite frustrated, especially the independent media.
Really?
It is not a very easy terrain for the media.
Sometimes don't take regulation to be frustration, to be
I'm just giving that as an example. But yes, the harassment is also there. Because
also sometimes media is human beings. A few of your colleagues can make mistakes of trying to lie, trying to politicize things which are not actually
but that's not always the case, though. That's not always the case. But regardless, I want us to move. There's an issue of taxation. That is, there's a comment here again. Taxation is hitting Ugandans really, really hard. And when you look at internet tax, someone was joking about issues of transport tax and that perhaps the government will soon even start taxing Ugandans for breathing, for enjoyment, and so many other things.
No one has ever enjoyed paying tax, even from government. Let me tell you, by the way, when we are seated in our government offices discussing tax policy, amongst the very people who are discussing it, they don't want tax. No one loves to pay tax, but tax is a fundamental requirement of a modern state. You will not have anything, Judith, done without people paying some tax. What we should avoid is overtaxation. And in Uganda, we avoid that. Let me tell you, by the way, Uganda's tax burden, again, I'm giving you another homework. Check your phone, type in tax burden by country, and you see how your country is ranking. Tax burden by country. There are institutions like Heritage Foundation. They track tax burdens around the world. You'll find Uganda is down there, amongst the countries with the low tax burdens. But you see, Uganda, we love to exaggerate things. They say our taxes are the highest in the world. They are so high. No, it's not true. The tax burden of Uganda is relatively lower. And we made it even indirect and broad-based. In Uganda, by the way, it's very difficult to dodge tax, except there are high-profile businesses which try to under-declare, falsify information or those declarations, and they cheat. Those we are auditing them. We audit them, and we shall get them. But by and large, on this individual basis, I know some people don't want to pay income tax, for example. I've had colleagues who earn big monies in the government, and therefore they are taxed at a threshold of 40%, especially in institutions, those agencies, they don't want this tax. But it's really fairness that if you earn a lot, you pay relatively some more, so that the other person can get services who doesn't have a chance to have a job like yours.
So that's actually an interesting thing. We actually have a few minutes to go, but I think what Ugandans probably mean is when they pay these taxes, which you say is quite low, when you're making these global comparisons, it might seem low, but to a struggling individual paying taxes, and then they still have to struggle to get quality services in terms of education for their kids, healthcare. People take their kids to school. I mean, government has given Ugandans free education. The enrollment rates are very high, but the dropout rates are very equally high. But also there are questions of quality in terms of infrastructure, the quality of education that the learners are getting, the compensation or remuneration for teachers and administrators. These are issues that, of course, need to be worked on, and we talk about this time and time again. Access to medical care. Government will always say, well, we have public hospitals where you can access treatment free of charge, but people still have to pay for certain services there.
Yeah, some is cost sharing, some is outright corruption. And that's what we need to stamp out. That's why IG goes back to the people to tell them, if a service is supposed to be free, like a free medicine, which has government of Uganda, not for sale, and you are buying it from a clinic, or you are buying it from the hospital, you are facilitating corruption. Or you go to police, and you are supposed to report your case, and the officer tells you, you first bring money, because it is going to buy some exercise book. Or you go to a clinic to test, and some nurse is telling you, please first put the money under your phone there and get out. And it's you who's facilitating corruption. You need to report such people. But by and large, when you look at the services of Uganda we provide on the money, some are visible, some are not visible. That argument that you don't see the tax money in your life is a wrong one. The security of Uganda is funded by your tax money. Those people, as you are sleeping, there are some people who are awake. As you are doing business, as you are traveling from one point of Uganda to another, there is money spent to keep you safe. Then we have this expanse of the government apparatus to ensure that they provide the public good. That, government provides the visible hand, and then the private sector the invisible hand for things to work. Those require government money. You see the national budget, we analyze it for you and we show you where this money has been spent. A big chunk of the money goes into education. It could still be underfunded because we are having, less revenue, lower revenue than what is required. We are not United States of America. We are having less money. Definitely there will be gaps, but your tax revenue has been put to use. Like now we collect about 30 trillion shillings, and yet you have a budget of 70 trillion. So what do you expect? The revenue is lower than the required expenditure.
Okay. We're running out of time, so now we're coming to the last question. Just 5 key things which you're focusing on. Like you said earlier, you're now in the budgeting period. And there are, of course, so many programs, so many areas that you're focusing on. But we just need just 5 key that you think will actually be transformative for Ugandans in the coming year.
Number 1 is continue to provide affordable capital to the farmers and all other wealth creators. Give them long-term capital through UDB, the PDM, Agricultural Credit Facility, EMIOGA, Invite, Grow, so on. We are also going to try and provide more money to support exporters, especially exporters. You are an exporter out there, we are out to really provide export finance. Number 2 is investing in value addition so that we can get the products which are under the wealth creation added, value to. because people are now becoming more productive. We want to see products out of food, out of these milk, eggs, maize, vegetables, fruits, which are people producing. Value addition. Number 3 is improving productivity in agriculture by ensuring that now we can invest more in fertilizer, in quality seed, and in irrigation. Those 3 areas: fertilizer, quality seeds and breeds, and then irrigation. Number 4 is market access and penetration. Investing more in getting Ugandans connected to the markets, building more infrastructure, implementing warehouse receipt system, helping in educating Ugandans and financing aggregation quality standards, especially standards. You can't sell things which you haven't standardized. So we are going to be putting more emphasis in that area. And lastly, and very, very important, effective enforcement of the rules and regulations so that we can support the production and productivity, the exports, but also the overall transformation of Uganda. We want to tame this indiscipline in Uganda. We want to start actually earning from the indiscipline. If people have decided to be indisciplined, riding as if you are in your own world, driving on pavements, overrunning lights, red lights, doing all sorts of things in the villages, that indiscipline you're going to earn from it going forward. So enforcement of rules, we are cleaning up.
Thank you very much. Just your final comments, your concluding remarks in just a minute, and then we
just to first of all to thank Ugandans who are in wealth creation, because Uganda is a transforming economy. It's an economy on a move, and I'm so glad that as a Secretary to Treasury I've witnessed this, and it has supported the recovery of the economy. We have fully recovered now. We are back to 6.1% growth. Before COVID, we were at 6.4%. We want growth to get to about 7% going forward, and we shall be able to answer most of the economic questions that we are having in our heads. There is no way we shall get more money to the people if the pie does not expand, and that's where I would want every Ugandan to focus going forward.
Thank you very, very much for making time to join us today on VPN. My guest is Mr. Ramadan Ggoobi, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and Secretary to the Treasury. We've been talking about the strategy to fix Uganda's economy in 2025. And thank you so much to all of you who've tuned in, and those of you who called to ask questions, comments, generally to contribute to the discussion. Much appreciation. This is VPN. My name is Judith Atim. We'll be back next Saturday, same time. For now, it's bye-bye, and have yourselves a wonderful